Let me just get the recording started. Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry I'm late. Hello, Annette. Hello, Louise.
Hello.
I was actually in the wrong webinar.
What?
Like, what is it?
Hi, Dr. B. Happy to see you. Missed you.
Thank you. So Dr. Voss is not able to join us this morning because a
Okay.
hurricane hit where he is. So
Oh, no, is he all right?
Hurricane Zeta. Have you heard of Hurricane Zeta?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it went through his town and there's no electricity. So he messaged me late last night and he's like, Leilani, I have no electricity. He's like, "Can you tomorrow?" And I said, of course. So I log on and I'm early and I'm all excited and I'm like, where are these people?
Wait a minute.
So it wasn't until everybody, attendees out there, it wasn't until I texted Rafael, who's in Brazil, and he said, no, Annette and Louise are waiting for you. And I'm thinking, I'm in the wrong webinar.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so let's run it like this. Annette and Ania, can you just update, first of all, attendees, if you guys could go into the Q&A and just let us know where you're coming from. If you could just answer to me, where are you zooming in from? And so that we can all know. And then Annette and Ania, if you could update the Academy students where we are this week with Academy. And nobody is answering me. So if, those people who are in the audience, if you could please go into your text. My question is, where are you zooming in from? And then we'll let Annette and Ania. So Annette is from Kenya and Ania
Yes.
is currently in the Philippines. She's from the Philippines.
Yes.
And Louise is currently in the Netherlands. So Faiza, thank you. You're coming in from Pakistan. So we are from all over the world right now. Jamana is from Saudi Arabia. Thank you, Jamana. So go ahead, guys. Let us know where we are. Nikhil in India. Thank you, Nikhil. Nepal, Appeal. Thank you. So go ahead and let us know where we are with Academy.
Hi, guys. Dr. V has already mentioned I am from Kenya. I'm actually a senior coach at X-Culture. We just closed week 3 of the practical phase. I'm happy that the weekly survey reports shows everyone is taking good course with their project writing. I can see you guys already gotten good rapport with your teammates. You're already engaging well, and the project is taking good course so far. Next week, we will still continue with the project and continue working together as a team. I really, really like the fact that everyone is taking this in good stride and contributing and working together like a one happy family. That is what X-Culture is. Maybe Anya will give us a little bit about her update, and then she will give back the mic to me. I introduce Louise, and then we can go move on with the course of the day.
Okay, so for an update on my part, we have a virtual cooking class next week. It's from Nepal. I'm not sure if she's here. Her name is Serman. Okay, Serman Tapi, I think. I'm sorry for the last name if I got it wrong. And she will be cooking a side dish, which is similar to salad, she said. And I think that's all. So, Annette, back to you.
All right, thank you, Ania. So, guys, today get your eyes and ears ready. We have a tour to the Netherlands by our one and only Lois. So, oh, guys, I need you to cyber clap. Lois just turned 18 last week. Happy birthday!
Thank you.
Yeah. So yes, Liz is going to take us through the city that she really, really loves. in Netherlands. It's Alkamal. Yes, Louis, so you can go ahead and introduce yourself and you start taking us through the tour.
Yeah, I need to write to share my screen.
Yes, of course. So let me make sure that I did that.
Yes.
You can see it, right? Do you see the green little thing in the bottom? It says
Yes, but
screen.
it's disabled.
Oh.
Okay, you guys, you know how I am with this stuff. Where's Raphael when I need him? Okay,
Okay, let me ask, who has logged in as Dr. Voss?
me, I'm Dr.
All
Vaughn.
right, do this. Do this, Dr. B.
Okay,
Go
all
to...
panelists, yay! Screen.
Congrats.
Start sharing
I
now.
can do it now.
Yeah, okay, yay. I'm telling you,
Great.
it's not that I don't know, it's just that this is a different feature from what I have. So,
Sorry.
by the way, let me just tell you, Louise, I actually was working on my PhD in the Rotterdam School of Business in Rotterdam. So I'm sorry, Erasmus University in Rotterdam, and I was working with Rotterdam School of Business while I was there. So I'm very familiar with the Netherlands. Love your country. I love the people from the Netherlands. So I'm going to mute myself and I'm going to take my video out, but I am going to be answering questions. So if you have any questions, guys, go ahead and put it in the Q&A and I'll be able to answer it while you guys are going through the virtual. Okay. And so I guess Anit, Ania, and Louise,
Actually, Dr. Dr. B, it is Anit and Annette. Oh, yes. Oh, Anit, Ania. Oh, yeah, great.
they're
Ania
both
has...
Anit, Ania, and Annette. That's why I'm all confused.
But well, it's a beautiful combination of the aids. Let's
So
continue.
I am going to mute myself. I'm going to take my video out. Anit and Ania and myself, we will be answering questions in the Q&A while Annette and Louise get the virtual tour going. Okay? Yay.
All right, guys,
Thank
get
you.
ready. Here we come.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to show you a little bit about my city and show you my favorite places. But first, let me just start with telling a little bit about myself. My name is
Louise, your volume is a little bit low.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Louise van der Horst, and as I said, I just turned 18, and I'm currently in my last year of high school at a school called Het Jan Arends. Remember this name because it's involved in a story I'm going to tell you later. I really like theater, and also I have a quite common Dutch hobby called ice skating. And my goals in X Culture are to be more comfortable in talking in English and to meet new people and learn more about their cultures. So before we start with the tour, I'm going to give you a little bit of a background about the city to understand it better, a little bit of history. So Alkmaar is actually quite an old city. The first mention of this city is in the 10th century. And it became officially a city when it got its city rights from the king in 12.
Lois, I think you should increase the volume on your device. I can see there is an anonymous attendee saying they cannot hear you.
Yeah.
Just increase the device on your the volume on your device.
Or Lois, you can also come closer to your laptop and that will help. Okay.
Yeah, they can. Oh, okay. Please, the anonymous attendee, you can also increase the volume on your device, please. Let's continue.
Okay, can you hear me loud and clear now?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I can hear you. I don't know about the rest. Dr. B, can you hear her?
Loud and clear in Miami. So we can hear you
Great.
in Miami, Lois.
Okay,
Let's
good.
continue.
So as I said, it got its city rights in 1254. And in the beginning, it was quite small, but it grew a lot. And here you can see an old map, and you can see here the houses, and there was a wall around it. Nowadays, has just grown a lot, so there's no more wall. It's just a lot bigger than it used to be, and almost has a 100,000 inhabitants. The other pictures are of the war with the Spanish, and here you can see them fighting on the wall. And it is quite an important detail because it's involved in the stories I'm going to tell about the buildings. And the last thing you need to know is that in the Dutch Golden Age, there were a lot of Dutch cities which were quite rich, and they were very important for trade, and Alkmaar was one of them at the time. And today I'm going to show you a part called De Oude Stad, which translates to the old city. Here you have a map. And as you can see, it consists of really narrow streets. That's also why I'm not there today because of COVID. I can't stay there for a long time. And if you see the houses, they are also quite narrow, but quite high. And nowadays you have on the street level for mostly a shop, and above it people can live. So now just let's start with the actual part of the tour with pictures I made myself. So first now we're entering the city center, so not just the old city, but this is the view you get when you enter the city center. And now we bike along, and here we are at a bridge, which is one of the entry points into the old city. Here you can see a pretty typical Dutch view. You have the canal with houses, and these houses have a name, and we call them grachtenpanden, because the Dutch name for a canal is een gracht, and panden means something like houses. And these houses were often used for storage of stuff used for trade. And now when we look at the bridge, so every entry point into the old city is actually a bridge. And you can here also see there are signs to know that you're in this part. And before we enter the city, we will just look to our right. And we will see another really important building for the history of Alkmaar. And it's called the Waagtoren. Waag is the Dutch word for scale. So it means scale tower. That was when Alkmaar got his city rights back after the war with the Spanish. They also got the right to have a scale. And that was really important because if you had a scale in that time, you could weigh products, so you could have a market and sell them. And in Alkmaar, it was a cheese market. So cheese is really important for this city. And you will also see this in the nickname we have for people from Alkmaar. We call people from Alkmaar kaaskoppen, which translates to cheeseheads.
So Louise, let me just pause you really quick because I've got a lot of questions that people are asking. I think you covered this in the beginning, but Alkmaar again translates to?
Alkmaar doesn't really have a translation. It just came from Alkmaria, and now it's just Alkmaar.
And why is it called?
Actually, I've just read here on Google, it's ideally translated as cheeseheads because mostly that's where the most cheese in the city is made.
Ah, okay. So Raphael and whoever is asking the question is, why do they call it that? And it has something to do with the cheese, correct? Yeah,
Yes.
Louise?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple of more comments that I wanted to, just so that before you get too far along, is that the canals that surround the old city and the reason why the bridges are there, it actually serves as a protection from invaders coming into the old city, correct, Louise?
Well, it's the old city was surrounded by a wall.
Right, right. But today, the actual canals that surround the city, because of the bridges, they can actually bring those bridges up and down to control population control inside the old city. The other thing that I don't think you mentioned, and I saw it in your first slide, is that the canals are actually controlled by a lock system so that the water does not go in too much in and too much out into in and out of the city. Correct, Louise?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you could go back, I think it was your first slide of what you took personally. You actually can see, go back one more. Yeah. You can actually see underneath those bridges, they would have what they call locks, which are like kind of gates that go up and down, and it controls the flow of the water in and out of the city. Correct, Louise?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, okay. So my favorite city is very much like yours. My favorite city is Delft. So I go to Delft all the time. So same story, different town.
Yeah. Yes. Old Dutch cities kind of look alike. Like Alkmaar looks a lot like Amsterdam at some places.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, sorry to interrupt.
So, and now we are going to talk about this building, the green wooden building right here. And it's actually quite one of a kind. Because of fire risk, wooden buildings are banned, but they decided because of the historical significance that there are only two, and this is one of them. And if you look closely, you can see a bullet and a number underneath it, and the number is 1573. And this is the year when Alkmaar was surrounded by the Spanish army. And because of the walls, the people of Alkmaar were locked up inside. And they decided that on a way to defeat the Spanish in one of the most Dutch ways possible, they used water to their advantage. Because a lot of the Netherlands was water before they made it land. So they just decided to return the water to these places. And when the Spanish troops were leaving, there was one last cannon fight. And in this fight, a bullet entered this building and had made quite a lot of damage. But like a miracle, no one inside was actually harmed. And the people who lived inside it, the man who lived there, his name was Jan Arends, so the school where I go to. And he became actually quite an important figure, also religiously, for the history of Alkmaar. So, and now we are like really entering the streets with the shops. And in the house with the bullet, there is currently a jeweler. And you can also see, like, because even though I made this picture in September, you can see the Christmas lights already. And that's because the people who own shops and restaurants here are really involved with this part of time. So they really have a lot of events to celebrate winter. So to make sure it's a really interesting place, and it's also actually quite busy normally. So, and here we have another shopping street. And the name of this of this street has quite a special story behind it. This street is called Het Venitse. And the most common theory where the name comes from is that it has something to do with Venice in Italy. Because Alkmaar was a really big trade city at the time, and yeah, Venice was too. But it could also be because Alkmaar was like Venice, surrounded by water at that time. So, and here we are walking further into the part. And if you go to your left, there is where people are living. And if you go straight, there's more living space. But when we go right, we have more unique and one-of-a-kind stores. So let's turn right for now. And every story here is quite unique and has also a story behind it. So now I'm going to highlight a couple of stores. So this is actually a really cute and interesting place because it's a candy store, but also kind of a museum where you can see how the candy is made. And you can also try really delicious Dutch treats here, like stroopwafels.
Okay, Lois, you're gonna have to tell them what a stroopwafel is because it is the most incredible thing that comes out of the Netherlands.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the best thing. So it's basically you have a round, very thin waffle, and you have some syrup, caramel syrup inside of it, and another waffle. And it's also delicious when it's fresh and it's hot.
So here's the story. I was in Delft and I was in the market in Delft. And what I love about the market in Delft is it's a tradition that's been going on since William of Orange, you know, because it's the original city of the king, right? So I
Yes.
went to the market and there was a stroopwafel stand. So I went and got my very first stroopwafel. And ever since then, every time I go into the Netherlands, that's the first thing I get. Except that when you get it in a package, it's not as good as when you get it at the market. So if ever you have a chance to go to the Netherlands, always like beeline it to the waffle stand because you will never taste anything more delicious than that.
And get a warm one. That's the best.
Thanks for the heads up.
So, and just another view of the roof. And also what I really like about this part of the city is that in the rest of the city you have these generic stores. You also have like in Amsterdam the same stores but bigger. But in this part you have all of these unique stores. So it's really perfect for tourists, but also locals really like this part of the city because you can get some unique things here. And this is actually the restaurant my sister owns. It's a vegetarian and vegan friendly restaurant. And inside of it, it's all vintage furniture. And you can also buy like the table you are sitting at. And in the restaurant, you have like really Dutch dishes like cheese soup, but you also have like dishes from all around the world. And now I want to show you the roof because a lot of roofs here are really beautiful. So here, when you look up, you can see it's really decorated. But you can also see like there are two cow heads. And you might ask, why are there two cow heads above a vegetarian restaurant? That's because it used to be a butcher. But because of the history of this place, most of the buildings are monuments. So you can't really change a lot about the outside of it without permission from the city. So most of the decorations are still intact from a long time ago. And this is actually another really important store, I think. And it's the Dutch supermarket Albert Heijn. It's one of the biggest Dutch supermarkets. And it was founded by one man named Albert Heijn. And in that time, it was more called like a kruidenier. So that was what they called it before it evolved into a supermarket. And this is actually the third store of Albert Heijn. And it is the one Albert Heijn opened himself. So now just zoom in at some of the details of the building. So what you see here is Delft's Blauw tiles. That's from the city Dr. B told about, Delft. These tiles you can see at a lot of places in the Netherlands. And you also see some stained glass. And here some other details. Yeah, and also here, Albert Heijn is not here anymore because most of the supermarkets now are a lot larger. But because of all the monuments and buildings, it's still intact. Even now, in the inside, you have a completely different store. And I really like that a lot because on the outside, you have history to see. But on the inside, you have all of these new innovative stores with one-of-a-kind ideas. So you have got a good mix of new and old here. And also here, really Dutch view. You can also see there are a lot of bicycles here.
Okay, Louise, I'm going to have to pause you a little bit because the Netherlands as a cycling economy is a huge thing, and it's a very rare thing actually for the rest of the world. So could you explain the cycling economy in the Netherlands and why that is?
So here in the Netherlands, it's quite common to use a bike to go like small distances. So almost everyone who goes to school, elementary and high school, uses a bike. And also some people use it to go for work, but it has a numerous of reasons. First, the Netherlands is very flat, so it's not like you have mountains to bike up upon. And the second reason is also it's quite a small country, so it's quite a small distance you need to have. And also, especially if you see these old cities, the streets are really narrow and not made for cars. So when it's busy sometimes, when you need to go to the city, it's just a lot easier to take a bike.
Yes, and not only that, but the economy has actually made it very accommodating because you can take a bike on a bus, on the train. You can actually go cycling around the country very easily because you can even put a backpack on like a two-sided backpack on your bike, and that could be your luggage as you travel throughout the countryside.
The other thing I actually found intriguing, Dr. B, before Louise leaves this particular slide, is the floating houses
Yes.
and restaurants.
Yes.
Louise, please tell us about that.
So I told Annette yesterday that as the ground was very expensive also here, you also have some houses that are floating into canals. I don't have any pictures of them, but they are also in Alkmaar.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have like houses that are floating, and some of them are like actual boats, and some just are floating and not actual boats.
Mm-hmm. And some are restaurants. Some are actually permanently docked. If you go to Amsterdam, for example, they have a lot of permanently docked floating boats, and some of them are actually for commercial use. I know there's one that's kind of like a bed and breakfast, and very close to it is a restaurant floating boat, also in Amsterdam. So, and the reason, Annette, is because the country is so small that and you can see that by the narrowness of the houses, right? That as far back as the Middle Ages, they've always had this challenge with land. And that's really why the Netherlands are the experts of the world, by the way. Nobody does land reclamation engineering better than the Netherlands.
Yeah, because most of their land was actually reclaimed from the sea, right? Is it the ocean or the sea?
No, from the sea. So if you go, for example, into Amsterdam, Amsterdam is actually lower than the sea level. And the reason that they've been able to protect this medieval city is because they have created land reclamation, I want to call them dikes out into the sea. And that protects the sea from reclaiming Amsterdam. I believe they do the same thing in a lot of these small cities, and that's why the dike system and the lock system is so important to the country, because this is the way that they can control the sea coming in. The other
And-
thing that's, sorry, go ahead, Annette.
Continue, Dr. B.
Okay. The other thing that is really, really important about the Netherlands, and again, Louise, I'm sorry if I'm stealing your thunder. I was working on a PhD in the Netherlands, so I know a lot about your country. And with regards to trade, by the way, is the Netherlands have been seafarers since the beginning of time. This is their talent. You know how every society has a superpower? The superpower of the Dutch are living in the sea, living with the sea, and reclaiming land. And Louise, you probably know this, but their engineering went all the way out to the UAE, to the United Arab Emirates. And they're the ones who created the World Islands and the Palm Islands, this engineering. They've also been able to harness wind energy, right? So they've had wind
Yes.
since the beginning of time. But today, their innovations, if you fly into the Netherlands, into Schiphol, in the sea, you can see wind farms that are from that original Dutch engineering of windmills. These wind farms are harnessing the wind from the North Sea and creating energy to support the citizens. But then even better than that, they've been able to take these wind farm engineering and turn them into turbines and sink them into the ocean. And they use the sea current to generate energy to solar or to wind electro or turbine electrify this entire country. I mean, the Dutch, in terms of engineering and technology and innovation, they are probably one of the most brilliant civilizations or countries. Louise,
Thank you, Dr.
Louise,
B.
do you have anything to add?
Yes.
Oh, and because of what you've said, I've just remembered all these canals are actually man-made. Like Dr. B said, these guys are geniuses, guys. You can actually look at this and think it's a river. No, it's a way that was created for the water. And people actually do use it for transport and for accommodation and for leisure. And it's just amazing.
Yeah, we actually have also a really big canal. We call it the North Sea Canal. And that was dig out by people actually. And it's like a massive canal. And it's like there's also a musical made out of it, how they just dig just with shovels an entire canal for transportation.
Just a quick question. Appeal actually asked a question for you, Louise, and I'm going to help you answer it because I know that you're showing us the very quaint Dutch cities in the Netherlands. But his question was, are there any natural sites in the Netherlands? So go ahead, Louise, and answer. Is it Lois or Louise?
Louise.
Louise. Okay. So go ahead and answer that, Louise.
So yeah, we have nature here, but because it's such a small country, it's a lot. Almost anywhere there are people. That's why I'm showing you now a city, because that's. But we have some nature here, but not like very much, just because we don't have space for that.
Right. I think better to explain it, Louise, is that the Netherlands is one of the original countries of the Dark Ages, right? So for example, the United States of America did not officially become a country until 1776. You guys have history back to, before Christ, right? And that the civilization, you can historically track the evolution of your civilization, and it has been a consistently growing population. In fact, going back to the Spanish Dutch War, you guys were a part of a lot of other countries, like England, for example, as far back as pre-William of Orange, right? That was actually the fight against your kingdom and the Kingdom of England. So the idea that it doesn't have a lot of natural resources or natural land. It's because of the smallness of your country. However, with the countries, with the natural territories that you've been able to protect, and really that's the word, right? Is you guys have been able to protect so many of your natural heritage. So Kinderdijk, for example, is a beautiful, it's not very large, but it's a beautiful natural site where there's history there. Keukenhof, Louise, tell them about Keukenhof, because this is your national treasure.
Yeah, Keukenhof is how you pronounce it. And
Keukenhof, yes.
so every year there is a festival and where you have all kind of like plants, tulips especially. And it's like really beautiful and it's amazing to see.
So with regards to Keukenhof, I'm sorry I can't say it, I don't have the Dutch tongue, but just so for the purpose of international trade, right? You guys are the #1 producers of tulips. The country of the Netherlands, as small as it is, has the absolute advantage, meaning that you can create it cheaper, faster, and get it to market quicker than anywhere else in the world. And in fact, you guys were able to create an industry surrounding that industry. That's why you have Flormart. And I believe Flormart is just outside of Amsterdam, correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
And
and with tulips, a really interesting fact that tulips were really important also in the Dutch Golden Age. So, as one time, one tulip could be worth around the same as a house.
exactly. Of course, there was a crash that followed that. So that's
Yes.
a whole other story. But the fact that you guys have absolute advantage to tulip, I don't want to call it manufacturing, but you know, when you guys go to your stores all over the world, if you see a tulip, it's probably an export product from the Netherlands, and it's probably coming out of the Flormart auction house, and it's probably getting to your market by plane because it's a highly perishable item. So, okay, sorry, Louise. I'm gonna shut up again.
Thank you for all the amazing facts about the Netherlands. Now I'm going to talk some more about roofs. And so you have amazing roofs on these small buildings. And this is called stepped gable, and it's also it almost looks like a stair. And you have it quite a lot, also in the old city. So here you have one, and another one. You can also see all the decorations. And here, this tower. This tower is also a symbol what is on the flag of Alkmaar, which I'm going to talk about in the next few slides. And all these buildings have amazing decorations. I want to show you. So here, for example, and if you look closely here, you can see all kinds of things, even a hat here. And here you have that tower again. So it's really interesting because especially if there are tourists in this small narrow streets, everyone is looking up the entire time. And here you have like another more rustic view. And here you have another one, and here you can see a hook quite clearly. And also if you look at some other buildings I show, there are also quite a lot of hooks on them.
You need to explain why.
Yes, I'm
I
about
think that's
to.
where she's going.
So as I said already, the houses are really narrow. So that means the staircases are too. So when you needed to products, if you want to store them and you want to get them to up to the stairs, it wasn't really possible. So you had this hook and you could tie a rope around it and you could pull the stuff you wanted to get inside, and you open the window and you can get it in. And today it's actually used when people want to move because the stairs aren't getting any bigger. So if you want, for example, get a couch inside your home, you still use this and get it inside through the window.
So now we know why those buildings have hooks.
Yes, it's for practical use.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you really have a lot of amazing roofs here. I really like looking at them. But what I also like about this place is that, especially where people live, there's also some kind of greenery. Because what I showed you was a lot of bricks. But when we go further, you can here see people like decorated with some plants. But if you go here, I really like this. It's one of my favorite streets here. You get a lot of plants. And you, next to all the plants, you see also a lot of flags of Alkmaar. And you can see it's actually quite a new flag. It's from around 2000, and the colors are red and white, and that's because of the soccer team. And you can see the tower, and it's the same tower you saw already in the decorations, and this was a tower from the wall. But the wall is not there anymore, because Alkmaar grew a lot, so they needed more space. And people in Alkmaar are generally really proud of their history. And you can see that in a lot of ways. There are a lot of theater plays about the victory and other stories of history. But also every year in the 8th of October, they celebrate the defeat of the Spanish. But nowadays it's not really about the defeat of the Spanish. It's more where everyone from Alkmaar gets together and celebrates together. So it's really a great party. And
Like
also,
party people kind of thing.
yes, it's really nice. And there are like parades with all kinds of costumes, and there is a parade for children. It's also, and everyone goes on the square next to the Waagtoren. There are like tables, wooden tables, and they all eat together and celebrate. And
Nice.
they also think it's really important that children also learn this history. So also in elementary schools on that day, there's sometimes a kind of history lesson about this.
So Louise, does every city have like a day like that where they celebrate like their independence or some kind of a defeat?
Not all, but I know Leiden has one too.
Mhm.
And there are some cities who have it, but not all of them.
Thank you.
So, and now we are like leaving the city
Louise,
again.
you did not talk about the bullheads
I'm
in
sorry.
the previous slide. Yes, these ones.
What did I? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
You did not talk about the bullheads.
I'm sorry, I can't understand you.
The heads of the bulls on these buildings.
This?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I talked about that earlier. These are cow heads because it used to be a butcher. Do you mean that or something else?
Yes. So to keep the heritage of the building, they just maintain the bullheads just for people to always remember it used to be a butchery.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting to see you have a vegetarian restaurant and you got cows above it.
That is confusing. Let's continue.
Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Feel free to ask them.
That was great, Louise. Thank you so much. I do have a couple of questions for you. Actually, if you could fill us in, I think the Netherlands is one of the few kingdoms that are left in the European Union. So if you could talk about that and how, you know, I think with the exception of England, you have the longest reigning kingdom monarchy in the European Union.
So now we have a king and a queen, and the king's name is Willem-Alexander. Most of the kings have Willem in their name. So, and the queen is Maxima. But as of now, the king and queen don't have really power anymore. So we have so it's a,
Ceremonial.
yes, it's ceremonial.
Yeah.
And it's also really interesting because the king and queen aren't accountable for their actions. So what we had was when they went on vacation just when another lockdown was, and the one who gets all the criticism are the king and the queen, but is our president Mark Rutte got the criticism for the actions of the king and queen.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
that's how it works now. So it's just the government now has the power, and they are just really great role models. International.
So you guys are, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the country of the Netherlands is what they called a socialistic republic, correct?
Yes, you could call that.
Yes. Okay, so the monarchy is really abolished. And it was abolished a long time ago, except that you continue to maintain the monarchy for ceremonial purposes. And if you could explain why William is actually in the name of all of the children, or at least one of the heirs have to be named William.
Yes, Willem van Oranje is a really important name, and also in the name I mentioned in the war with Spain. So Willem of Orange in English, and he was what we call a stadhouder. So the head of the army, but the word stadhouder has had multiple meanings. And he is also the one, because the Netherlands had the Spanish king, and they decided they wanted to have the right to leave the king if the king didn't do his duties right. So Willem of Oranje was the leader of this revolution, and that's also how the Netherlands got his independence. So it's really quite an important figure in history. So the name Willem, that's why you can still hear it today.
And actually there, the monarchy is the seat of the monarchy is in Delft. And if you go into the Neue Kirche, which the new church, which have you been there, Louise?
No, I don't have been in Delft.
Louise, you have to go to Delft. So if you go to the Neue Kirche, okay, the new church, that's where his tomb is, and you will be so amazed. And also, you know, Wilhelm got shot, right? So you can actually go to the, I think it was where the army was gathering during one of the meetings. He was shot and the bullet hit him, but it grazed him. He survived the shot, but the bullet hole is still on the wall, and they left it there for the people to remember. And you can actually still stick your finger in the hole. The hole, of course, is bigger now because people keep sticking their finger in there. But just to commemorate the time where he survived being assassinated or attempting to be assassinated. But you didn't tell us about Maxima, Queen Maxima. Tell us about her.
So Queen Maxima is originally from Argentina. And she is married to Willem-Alexander.
So isn't that interesting that your queen is from Argentina?
Yeah, it's how did she even how did she become their queen? I mean, that love should have been maybe I don't know, something should have been done. And
Annette,
okay, okay, Dr. B. Sorry, let me tell you this. Yes, I am in Kenya. I'm Kenyan right now because I'm married to a Kenyan, but
right.
I am born and nurtured in Uganda from Buganda, and we cannot allow our king to marry from any other tribe.
Okay.
So I'm trying to imagine how.
So the Dutch are extremely modern. I mean, even in the Middle Ages, they were considered one of the most modern countries, and they 1000% believe in love marriages. Whereas, like the British are really struggling with that right now. So, for example, Meghan Markle is of African descent, and she married the prince, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, they basically, gave her a very difficult time to where they had to move back to the United States, and they live in Hollywood because she's an actress,
Yeah.
But the Netherlands is extremely liberal when it comes to things like that. And arranged marriages, that's just an ixnay, okay? You don't do that to people. Correct?
But
Louis?
mostly for those for the regions that have kings and queens and kingdoms, and like they still believe in that. They want to keep them, what do I call it? Is it a tranquility or something? Like they just don't want it to be mixed up.
Well, okay, so you're talking about really like a hierarchy, right? And
Yeah.
when a king is, or when a prince is heir to the throne, they're a little bit more decisive as to who they're going to marry. Okay, so for example, England, when William wanted to choose a wife, Kate is a commoner. She's a commoner. She's not of nobility. So he got to pick a commoner who he loved, but she was still English. You know what I mean? Okay,
Yeah, and
so
she had to go through a lot of training for her to get the royal habits and everything. She had to be groomed. She had to, I mean, she went through a lot.
yeah, except that when Harry decided to marry Meghan Markle, who is, as people know, is half African American, right? They gave her a really hard time. I mean, just like a lot of the scrutiny that happened. And, she's a very independent, liberated woman. She's not going to take that. So they left the country. So he is not an heir to the throne. So William already has produced several children. So he's like number 8, like a whole thing has to happen before, he even becomes considered for power. That's why he's really not, he's not somebody that they're willing to lose. Now the Dutch, the king was heir to the throne when he married the Argentine. She's the daughter of a well-to-do family. I think her father is in politics, but no nobility, no titles or anything. So, and the Dutch have been very liberal about accepting her. And Louise, I believe you guys love her, right?
Yeah, she's really loved in this country. But I also think in this country, because we're quite small, we're also quite
You're
international.
accommodative.
Yeah, so I think international relationships are also accepted so in society. So I don't think it's weird that the king and queen have it too.
Oh, that's interesting. So there is a question here, Louise, from Pfizer. He's asking, who is the prince?
So we don't have prince. We have princesses. So the king and queen have 3 princesses.
3 daughters. Oh, cool. Okay,
Beautiful.
so I have a question, Louise. How many languages do you speak? Because Dutch is not a language that's spoken outside of the Netherlands, right? I think it used to be spoken in the Dutch East Indies, but today really it's more patois that's being spoken there. But for the Dutch, you guys really have to learn multiple languages. So how many languages do you speak?
So I speak Dutch and I speak English and I'm learning French in school, but I don't really say that I can speak it comfortably.
Mhm.
Yeah, but generally
And
the countries, how many languages do you speak?
Well, it's mostly just that the English level is really high for a non-native English-speaking country. It's just because English is really important. And
yeah.
especially if you go to Amsterdam, if I go to Amsterdam and I go to a store, I need to ask, do I need to speak English or Dutch?
Oh, really?
Really? Don't tell the French that, because the French would be so offended, you know? Because it used to be in the European community, it used to be that the French was the language of business. And of course, you guys know today, English is the language of business. And in fact, if you speak to English speaking people from the United Kingdom, they're going to say that they speak English, but we speak American here in the United States. I mean, they even differentiate it like that. So Louise, what do you speak? Do you speak English or do you speak American?
So what we need to learn from our school is English, like British English. But what we learn in like media is sometimes more American. So I speak
Right.
like English, but I don't speak it like really only English. I sometimes will speak with American words because I heard that too in movies and YouTube.
Exactly. Exactly.
Dr. B, I know you would love this to go on and on and on, but we need to
I
go.
know. I have to go because I have to go and start the other meeting. But I'm
Yeah.
going to stop recording now, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. And I'm going to leave it to Annette to finish. Louise, great job. Continue to do a great job. And I will see you in our next event. Okay. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
nice
you,
day.
Dr. B.
Annette, I'm going to transfer the host to you. I don't know how to do that actually.
Let me see. I think Louise is now the host. Oh, it's you.
I know it's
Um,
me. I just got to figure out how to do it. Okay. let me
Just go to my name and make me host.
Louise, can you stop sharing?
Yes.
And then I'll make, yes. Okay, bye, guys.
All right, bye. See you.
Annette, make sure you stop
You
recording
up?
so that Raphael can, do that thing.
You
he does.
can find it on the cloud. Yes, that's okay. All right, see you in a bit. Oh, hi, Anit.
Hello.
You're muted. I think we have to go, guys. Louise, thank you very much. This was awesome and very educative. We have learned a lot. We've seen so much of the Alkamal city. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Louis.
Do you want to say something, Anit?
It was wonderful.
All right, guys, I will have to go ahead and have this and end this. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and end this. Louis, thank you very much. I will
Thank
need
you,
to join
Louise.
another meeting now.
Bye.
All right,
Yeah.
keep in touch.